and welcome to the second ever and new podcast. My name is Steven. I am joined, as always, by producer extraordinaire Kelly. Today we're going to be touching base on all things WWE over the week, including Hell in a Cell, which just happened. Touching base on also UFC and a little bit of other things as well. This Friday, Kelly and I both went to an awesome wedding. It was a real gong show, but all in all, it was fun. But one thing that stuck out to me throughout the entire night was all these diets people are on, and I just feel really sorry for these people on diets. You know, if you're on a diet for health reasons, you need to lose weight because you're unhealthy, or you got diabetes or something like that. More power to you. If you got to use it, you got to use it. But I think it's more of a popular thing right now, and I'm just of the mind that if you have to do something just to do something, and you're cutting stuff out of your life that you like, that's all these people are talking about. Is, oh, I miss this, I miss that, I wish I could drink this, I wish I could eat that. Why? You need lose 10 pounds. I can lose 10 pounds. Everyone can lose 10 pounds. But if you're going about it in a way that you're hurting yourself emotionally because you can't have everything that you want, I just think you're going about it the wrong way. You know, it's like the keto, the paleo, the carnivore. Everyone's on something these days, and I don't know if it's a mainstream thing. But it's just so funny how everyone's, especially when it comes to drinking alcohol, which we consumed a lot of that night, is most people, they can't drink. They can drink certain tea drinks. It has to be like a vodka or with something, but zero this, zero that. I just really feel sorry for people who want to limit what they can enjoy. Drinking and eating is. It's such an enjoyable part of the day, and I want to be able to enjoy it. I don't want to be, oh no, I'm over my points limit or something this week. I just thought it was a very, very odd of all these people coming out of the woodwork, all saying the same type of thing, and it goes with with vegans and that type of thing too. It's just like, why do you want to limit yourself from enjoying everything in life? I love bacon. Love it. There's no way I could not be a part of something that didn't like bacon. I absolutely love it. And if I want to go get a burger, I'll go get a burger. Hey, if I'm not feeling good, I'm going to go get some sushi. I'll go get some sushi. I never would want to have that on my head saying, you can't do this or you can't do that. Did you have a good time at the wedding, Kelly?
I did.
Yeah.
I'm contributing.
There you go. Very well, I might add. Very well.
The food was awesome.
Yeah, the food was awesome, yeah.
Had everything. Chicken, beef, salmon.
Yeah. I thought the venue was super nice, and it was good to see a lot of old, good friends, too. I think that was the main thing. We had our table was stacked with all good people, and
yes,
we were really life of the party as well. We were really hooting and hollering. Doing a few Ric Flair woos up in there. It was a very good night.
We are the rowdy table.
Very, yes, definitely. It wasn't that. It was like, I think it was, I'd say small to medium. I'd say would be the size of that wedding, and but I think it was just right. The dance floor could have used a little help, but other than that, it was a really fun night. But I wanted to touch base. My main take for this week was the man Brock Lesnar, the man himself, the phenom, the mayor of Suplex City. Who in the entire world has two organizations by the balls? Who can show up one day and say, hey, I want to be the champ, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to come in when I want to come in, to two different multi-billion-dollar organizations? One person, Brock Lesnar, has them by the balls. His WWE attendance record would show that, where he just shows up, to only the major pay-per-views, very rarely showed up to a Raw. And I think it helped his persona, especially to help Roman Reigns get over, to be this real hated guy that would never show up and would never fight. And he was doing a lot of dastardly stuff before he lost the belt there. But to even come back to the UFC and just have that little power move in the ring where he pushes Daniel Cormier and basically say, I want to fight this guy who is also the champ. And the people are eating it up. It's one of those things where who else in the entire history of sports can ever say they have done that? Even, the only person that really comes to my mind would be Bo Jackson, but I think he wanted to play baseball and football, and he wasn't holding people ransom or saying, no, I'm not going to do this and I'm not going to do that. I think he just did it because of the love of both sports. It's just so odd, especially how someone, he's obviously a freak, he's got a big mouth on him, but someone, he really started off 1-1 in his career, beating, a kind of a can in Min Soo Kim. A guy who really hasn't done much since that fight. I think his last fight was 2009, and I think he's like 8-5. He doesn't have the best record, but either way, it was a good start for him. But then to lose to Frank Mir, he beats Heath Herring, and he gets an automatic title shot against Randy Couture. I'm pretty sure he was filling in for an injured guy, but how does somebody skyrocket to that? So he's 2-1, gets a title shot, wins the heavyweight belt, fights Mir again, whoops him, fights Carwin in that classic, which really kind of helped out his stock as well. But then he goes to lose to Kane. He gets his ass kicked by Kane. Gets the stomach problem, gets kicked in the gut by Overeem, and then didn't really, takes 5 years off going to the WWE, and then has a no contest where he fails his piss test against Mark Hunt. The guy's 5-3. This is not some undefeated fighter like Conor McGregor, who was he wasn't undefeated, but he's got a great record, and obviously the 2 belts, which he's never defended, so I don't think he really owns them. But he's 5-3. That's not a great record by anybody, and he's still garnering millions and millions of dollars from 2 different organizations. Especially when it comes to WWE, he shows up whenever the heck he wants to, and they apparently threw tons of money at him, tons. And what other wrestler can wear slogans on their pants? Nobody, except for Brock Lesnar. And I think the main reason is people love him. People love him for being, especially Americans, obviously, for being that loudmouth, saying what he wants to say. And he's a dude who has, by all rights, has earned that. He absolutely has. And I'm a fan. I know a lot of people do hate him. I'm not the biggest fan of his WWE run, but I am the biggest fan of him being a fighter, number one. And I enjoy his fights. I think the UFC is so desperate right now for heavyweights, they have no choice but to give him the money. They with Conor barely showing up once every 2 years, like we talked about, documented in the show many times before. There's the problem with rising stars. I think he's gonna get even a bigger payday, obviously if he wins, but even if he loses, he will still get a big payday from the UFC regardless, especially if they do some kind of marquee match or even give him maybe an easier fight in one of the so-called Legends match. And one thing I got to ask you, Kelly, do you think as of right now, without the Daniel Cormier fight, is he a Hall of Famer for the UFC? Do you think do you think he could be classified as a Hall of Famer?
Without the Daniel Cormier fight.
Without the Daniel Cormier fight, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Without that fight,
it is possible.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That's what I was thinking too. I think it actually technically could be, because he was the champ. He did defend the belt. I'll give him that, and he really has taken the company by storm. The one thing I've always liked about him is that he is the pro wrestler who came over and really kicked ass. They do that a lot in Japan, where they have a lot of pro wrestler Japanese guys doing it. Like Sakuraba was one of the most famous pro wrestlers, and he's gone back to that now too. But there really isn't that many guys who came over and were very successful. They came over and they did so-so. But Brock Lesnar, even though he is only 5-3, he did come over and kind of shock the world. I think a lot of people, losing to Frank Mir was a huge shock, I think, to a lot of people, where they thought he was just going to bull rush him and kill him, rip his head right off. But he's just just one of those tough ass farm guys that has that never give up attitude, and I think it has helped obviously for MMA, but it's a great attribute to have when it comes to the WWE world. What's crazy? He didn't even have the best college wrestling record as well. He was really good, and he did win All-American one year. But I think he went 4 years in a row. He had the chance to be All-American 4 times, and I think he only won once. So and he didn't do good in the NFL. He got the tryout, which most people don't get. I'm just totally shocked by someone who could really take two organizations by storm and really know how to get money out of them.
Something I never really thought about before.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But you raise a great point. Like, he just came in, no fights really, and he got the belt.
Mm-hmm.
Who does that?
Yeah, nobody. And he's coming back after failing a piss test, losing his 2 fights before that, and he's getting an automatic title shot. Like, Conor McGregor's the only guy who can really do that. It's because kind of technically he still had the belts, he was stripped of them, but
yeah. And there's another guy too. It's like the old saying goes: whether you hate him or you love him, if you're watching him, you're a fan.
That exactly, absolutely. That's so true. The people who hate him detest him. I know a bunch of people who absolutely detest him and want to see him lose. And I think that's what obviously what gets people in the seats too. His cockiness obviously rubs a lot of people the wrong way.
But they buy the pay-per-view.
Like absolutely.
Kobe Covington.
Yep.
Say his name. Sorry.
Yeah, Covington. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. He's really been promoting his next fight, which is apparently Tyron Woodley. No one signed the paper yet, but it apparently is Tyron Woodley.
Nice.
And I heard him on an interview actually smack talking to CM Punk, because I guess CM Punk was commenting on a bunch of fighters, and I for once actually agreed with Colby through all his crazy white trash slang. He was making sense, saying how CM Punk can't have an opinion in MMA. He's a bum, and I 100% agree. I'm a huge wrestling fan. Love when the wrestlers come over, as I just said, but I was never a CM Punk fan in the WWE. I know that's not a popular statement. He was mega popular with tons and tons of people, but he was just never my thing. This whole pushing the straight edge thing was never my thing, and I wanted to see him succeed when he came to UFC. I really did. But that last fight, the first fight, you could see, hey, he got whooped, he got caught, he got whooped, whatever. But the second fight, that was atrocious. That was disgusting. That's not what we want to see. UFC makes fun of Bellator for putting on those types of matches. But even with those old guys, I would take those fights any day over CM Punk's last outing against some news reporter. And it was pathetic. Everything about it was pathetic. His stand-up, his ground game, that I'll just never forget when he pulled guard and tried to pull on that guillotine. I was disgusted. I was embarrassed for him. That guillotine was so sloppy. I don't even know what the heck he was thinking. It was disgusting. But I really wanted last episode. We did a lot of UFC talk. As I touched base, I'm a huge wrestling fan. I want wrestling to be a part of this show. WWE and TNA and Lucha Underground, I love them all, but I really love WWE. I think it's at its all-time high right now. It's everyone wants it. Signing that huge deal with Fox, I think that they're really pulling out the stops, and I think they got the right thing going for once. It's odd when you see both shows are really doing a good job, really not having those dull moments or the terrible rivalries that just go nowhere. I'm really loving it here, and I'm the new Braun Strowman crew, touching base on last Raw. I think he's got something. He's got to have something to go against the Shield with, but I'm not a big fan of the Dogs of War. Pretty basic nickname. If they're sticking with that one, I don't like it. It's kind of basic. And it's just a play, I mean, the Shield, it's just, you're stealing kind of the Shield shit, because they're the Hounds of Justice, and even Roman Reigns, is the big dog. So how are you going to go with the Dogs of War? It's pretty basic to me. I don't know who thought of that one. I did have, I think, like the Strowman Squad, Strowman Crew, something like that. Something with, you can't really have like destruction in it or something, but they got to be a bit more creative. I guess it's probably the first idea that probably came out. Maybe McIntyre or Ziggler came up with the idea. I do like the stable with McIntyre and Ziggler and Strowman. I think it's a good fit. I hope we're going to see some kind of group revolution again here. I think that's kind of what's keeping Rey Mysterio away, because he always hated that, obviously from the days of NWO. But the big rumor is that Rey Mysterio will be coming back for the October pay-per-view and then be a main part of one of the rosters. It is just a rumor right now. There was an interview saying he did not confirm that and that he actually won't be coming to the WWE, but I think with him saying that, he almost 100% is, especially if the new game is going to feature him. They're going to have a big feature with him in the new video game. It'd be ridiculous for him not to come, even for a small stint. Maybe he does up to Royal Rumble again, which I would like to see. I think it would be. I'm a huge fan of Rey Mysterio. It's always good to see him. I thought his costume was super cool in the All In show. He had like a Wolverine kind of themed costume. I thought that was pretty cool. But touching base back on Raw, I did like how they let the Shield get beat up before, and now the Shield are back, kind of beating up on all the roster with those axe handles. I thought it was a nice touch. But it's a bit weird with the 1-up and the other 1-up. The Shield return I thought was a bit quick with the Ambrose return coming back so quickly. I do like Ambrose. He just seems different now. I know he's jacked up now, but he doesn't seem so lunatic-y. I don't know. Maybe it's just his short hair or something like that. But I'm not sure. But I think obviously they're leading up to this Dogs of War. I'm going to call them Strowman Squad versus the Shield, and they obviously are. They did just announce it tonight that they are going to be going up against each other at the Super Showdown in Australia next month. So it will be a big match. Who will still have belts by then, I don't know. Usually you don't see title changes at these special events, but either way, outdoor arenas I always enjoy. It's going to be a lot of fun. Drake Maverick with the Authors of Pain. It just looks like the weirdest pairing togetherness. Why they have Drake Maverick with him? He just looks like he's sexually attracted to them. I'm serious. That look he gives to them is like it's like me looking at a beer. It's a little odd. I don't know why they have him paired up with him. Why they're giving Drake Maverick the stupid British accent. The dude's from Canada. I'm not a big fan of Rockstar Spud anyways. I don't know, but for him to be the general manager of 205 Live and then to have him come over and be the mouthpiece for AOP, who desperately need a mouthpiece, why they lost Ellerin, I thought was a very questionable move, and it seemed like it left them open-ended to try to be on their own, but as everyone could have seen, they have no way they could be on their own. I think they got to keep them as kind of the jabbering foreigners who just yell and scream in some foreign language. It works for them. But without that mouthpiece, they would never survive. I thought they had a weird run when they first came in. I thought the call-up was far too quick. But to have them be called up that quick and then to have those bunch of squash matches and then disappear, basically, and then they come back with Drake Maverick, I'm very confused with where they're going with them. Why they have to have Drake Maverick, who's like 5'1". These guys are like 6 something. They're at least 6'5" each. They have this little guy with them, dressed up in the MMA gear like them. I'm very confused where they're going with this angle. I don't like it. I've heard rumors through the grapevine that they are going to be doing more 205 guys with the main roster guys, like when we've seen Leo Rush there with Bobby Lashley. Very weird again. Bobby Lashley can actually talk. I don't mind his talking either. I think he knows what to say. But Leo Rush is just kind of yelling stuff. He's like a bad car salesman. Not the hugest fan of it. But the other thing I'm not a huge fan of is the Triple H monologues. It's got to stop. I know he's earned the right to do whatever the hell he wants on the show. He could come out down to the ring naked, piss on the mat, walk away, and it's his right. He owns the damn thing, and he will own the whole thing. Once Vince be cryogenically frozen forever. After that happens, he will he will take over the reins and fully, and deservedly so. I think he's done a lot of good things for wrestling as a whole, especially with NXT, especially with 205, the UK little organization they started up. I'm a bit questionable about that, but that's all him, and I can respect him for that, having a lot of the guys he's brought over from Japan. But the monologue's got to stop. That last one was painful. It just going on for too long, saying the same buzzwords. I'm just not a fan. I'm just not a fan of him, and he's just, it's especially with he's going back and forth with the Undertaker. I love the Undertaker, one of my most favorite wrestlers of all time, and a lot of people will say that. But I'm not a fan of the old Undertaker we're seeing today being wheeled out there in a wheelchair to still make money. It's obviously on his own terms. They're probably just offering him too much money, and he can't turn it down. Who would? And to have that match against Triple H, I think is going to be an okay match. But let's not have Triple H on the mic anymore. It's just, he's trying to promote it, but I think if this match promotes itself, having the take with Shawn Michaels and the Undertaker in the ring, I thought that was a nice touch for Undertaker to show up beforehand. And they're always wanting Shawn Michaels to come back. Obviously, he's going to be the referee, and I hope they change it to a triple threat match, which would be, I think that would really be interesting for a lot of people, especially with Triple H and Shane McMahon. They've always been great friends, but they've always had a checkered history as well. I think it's a good move, but I just don't like Triple H talking on the mic anymore. It's just so many buzzwords coming out of him. He's got to get off now. He's been great at speeches recently, but let's stay off the mic here. Poor B Team. Poor B Team. They give you the belts, and they almost let Revival win. Thank God. I have a bet that Revival is not going to win the tag team titles, and I thought when the B Team became the champs, that Revival was definitely going to be the champs just out of sheer pity. Thank God that the Revival didn't get the belt too, but B Team, they had a little bit of hype there. I think you've seen people wearing the shirts, and they gave them the new stupid song, and it was really working. And now I have a bad feeling they're going to get buried. Raw needs tag teams, and I think that's obviously the reason why they gave the belt, I think deservedly so, to McIntyre and Ziggler, who totally dominated, and I think they are in that, with McIntyre especially, who are totally dominating everything right now. And I think it's a really good move for them to be. They are the toughest dudes, for them to be the tag team champs. But B Team didn't really get a fair shake. I think that, the fact that they won it at all, I think is a huge win for Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel. It's just a weird move to now, because now they're going to be going down. I can guarantee their next rivalry is going to be against Titus Worldwide or something, and really move to the bottom. I think they still deserve to be at the top, contending for the belts. If that happens, I don't know. In that match, they did give them rematch against the Dogs of War, the Strowman Squad, and I love I hate Dolph Ziggler. Can't stand him. His stupid, whiny, where's my chance? Where are my chance? You had 1,000 chances. He's got to stay a heel. Trying to make him this whiny babyface never worked. They've tried it 2 times, and it fucking crashed terribly each time. To make him this dirty ass pretty boy heel, I love it. It's the only thing that works for him. If they do anything else with the guy, it's just not going to work. But particularly, he did that double eye rake against Bo Dallas. Beautiful move, beautiful heel move, and just to obviously cheat and win the match. That's what you want to do when you're the bad guys. I really wanted to touch base on a guy who had fallen so hard from grace. He was at the top of his game. One of my personal favorites too, Kevin Owens. He goes from headbutting Vince McMahon to having to basically job harsh to Braun Strowman. I thought they'd at least let him put up some of a fight, but he goes from jobbing big time to Braun Strowman to now kind of feuding with Bobby Lashley, which didn't work out for Sami Zayn. I feel really sore for what happened, and I think what did happen was he got into his own head. He had that one bad match against, I believe it was AJ Styles, at at WrestleMania, and he just never mentally recovered from it. I think Vince McMahon didn't like it, and he took it so personally that he tried to overcompensate, and it came out the wrong way. I feel terrible for him. He's one of my favorite performers, especially on the mic. I love Kevin Owens. He doesn't look like a wrestler, and even Seth Rollins would say he was the one guy he never thought would make it to the WWE. But I love him. I love him on the mic. I love him in ring. I think he's always putting on great matches. But something's happened. He's kind of lost that spark recently. I hope we get it brought back, because I don't know what that could have turned out to be a great storyline to have him against the Authority, but it just didn't. Just fizzled right out. You go from headbutting Vince McMahon to nothing. I'm just so confused of how they did that and why they did that. I thought it was a great end to Raw. If I could finish up with Raw for right now, is great end with Roman Reigns doing the Samoa drop to Braun Strowman off kind of the ramp there, and then onto that stanchion down at the bottom. I thought it was a great move, huge show of strength from Roman Reigns, and it was a good way to top it off, especially leading into Hell in a Cell, where they are going to clash with a great matchup, I think, on paper, with Mick Foley as the special referee. Moving on to SmackDown. I'm not the biggest fan of Broken Brother Nero. I love Jeff Hardy. Love him. One of my favorite wrestlers of all time, especially when I was younger. I love the Hardy Boys. I think they're number 2 on my list of all time. I love the Dudley Boys too, but always love the Hardys for their high flying. But I'm just not a fan of Jeff Hardy's broken persona. It's kind of like that Willow and the Wisp, or Willow Wisp, whatever the hell that other one he did. I know he's trying to be creative and be a little bit different, and no matter what, people love his charisma, and they're always going to cheer for him. But I'm just not a big fan of it. I just don't know. It just seems a bit odd to me, and I think his rivalry right now with Randy Orton is a bit weird. It's almost kind of sexual too, between each other. He's always putting his finger in his ear hole. It's just very weird to me. But it is working as a pain thing. And is Jeff Hardy a robot, or is he an alien? I don't know what he is right now, but I think he would be better off just as Jeff Hardy and going for titles again. I think that's what he needs, is going for those titles. But he is having an okay rivalry right now. I just don't like the other antics, the cosmetic antics. Their in-ring matches have been actually quite good, but it's just the stuff outside. I'm not the hugest fan of him sticking. It is squirmish. It's making people squirm in their seats, and it's working that way. But I'm just not a huge fan. The Charlotte and Becky rivalry, 2 best friends going at it. I really do enjoy it, trying to make Becky this heel, where I thought I had said many times before in the past, she just can't do it. She can't be a heel. She can't be the bad guy. She's just too nice. She'll always be that Lionheart, always the rah, do your best and eat your vitamins and shit like that. But it's working. I think what they did, they told her to channel Conor McGregor. I think that's what they did when she was doing that strut after she attacked Charlotte, being in disguise from the crowd. I thought, when they have her head chin up and she's doing the strut just like Conor, I think that's a really good move, and I think it's working for her. I think she's embracing it. She's embracing the evil role, and I think going forward, do they still continue with it? I don't know how long this could last, but I do enjoy where they're going with Becky, and I really didn't think she had it in her. Good for her for going through with it and sticking to it. The Samoa Joe book. That whole rivalry with AJ Styles, it's getting a little below the belt, whole family thing, and you got the crowd chanting, "Who's your daddy?" I do really like Samoa Joe and AJ Styles, but have they gone against each other too many times? 2 of the main guys of TNA who had been in hundreds of matches before they even stepped foot in a WWE ring. I think that they have to go with it right now. I think it works, but have they fizzled each other out? You can only do so many things so many times. I think they're obviously both super professionals when it comes to their in-ring performances. And I'll give Samoa Joe, he's been great on the mic. He's been carrying that rivalry on the mic. But the book, that was that was cringeworthy. I thought it was well written. Whoever wrote it, and one of the writers, whoever wrote it, did a good job. But that one's getting below the belt. It's a good rivalry. I just don't think that these two guys should be still going up against each other. I'd love to see Samoa Joe in like a stable with heels, like all bad guy group. I think it's going to be coming up with against the Bullet Club. What do they call his team? I don't know who comes in it. I always thought had a rivalry back, and he was teaming up with Kevin Owens a few times, and I thought, oh, that's a great team. Those two dudes really should be together, but I think it is a clash of two guys who are both good on the mic, two guys who are both good in ring too. You don't want one guy to overshadow the other guy, or to have them in a situation where one guy isn't getting the proper viewings and the proper respect he should be getting, especially when it comes to both those guys. It is tough. Rusev Day winning the tag team titles. I did not see that. It was a good move. I think if Rusev is so popular right now with the Rusev Day, I've never been an Aiden English fan. Don't know what it is. The whole rap he came out with today, on Tuesday, it was not very good. Wasn't the hugest fan. Never been an Aiden English fan, so I am biased. I think he obviously works well with. They've tried to put a lot of people with Rusev, whether it be Jinder Mahal or he was in that Foreigner stable with Alberto Del Rio back in the day. I can't remember what the heck they were called, but even that was pretty terrible too. Oh, League of Nations, that's what it was called. I did not think they were going to win the titles though, but good for them for doing it. To win the battle for the titles, especially against the Bar. I thought it was very, very ballsy for the writers to make that move, but good for them. Carmella and R-Truth, they are doing an amazing job together. I love the fact that they're putting R-Truth in upper card again, not in the dark matches. I'm really loving it. Always been a huge R-Truth fan. The dude can perform. I think he's like 44, raps on the side, and he's an amazing in-ring performance, and he gets the crowd. He's a hype guy. I think that's why they always use him in the undercard, because he really hypes up the crowd. No one does it better like Ron Killings. Another guy who came over from TNA, somebody mentioned that to me the other day, just how many TNA stars they have in the WWE right now, and it's tons. It's absolutely tons of them, and I think that just goes to show how shittily TNA was run for them to lose all those great stars, and those guys are over in the WWE with obviously AJ Styles and Samoa Joe both fighting for a title, and a lot of other people as well. I think it's just a great move for all those guys to come over here, really be able to showcase their talents and get paid. And Ron Killings is one of them. Love R-Truth. He's been with the company for such a long time. I wouldn't mind if he won another title before. He's got to be getting up there before retirement. And pairing with Carmella, who's terrible on the mic. I can't stand Carmella on the mic. She's obviously a great performer and looks amazing, but keep the microphone away from her. I was speaking of girls who I love to have the microphone are the Iconics. Love them. I know a lot of people can't stand them on the microphone because they're Australian accents. I love it. The whole Mean Girl shtick, it really works. Give them the mic more often. They weren't on this episode of SmackDown, which I thought was very odd, because I thought they had got a ton of heat from the crowd just from making fun of them, pulling the Elias move of just making fun of every town you go to, which I just eat that up. I love that. And nothing gets you more booze than telling some city in America that they're all rednecks and terrible people and white trash. I love that shit. Love it. But more, I love having R-Truth in the more main events. Good move. What I thought was a super weird move was to give Brie Bella and Maurice the main event. I was shocked by that move. Brie had a tag team match with her sister on the Raw from the week before, and it was a botch mania. I thought she had killed herself when she had fallen out of the ring face first. I didn't know what the hell, so I didn't know what to expect on this one, and it was so slow with Maurice dodging in and out of the ring the whole time, and then, they're trying to make this whole thing where she's attacking her, and then she moves away, and then they're trying to get the husbands involved. I'm just not a fan. I've just never really been a big fan of the Bella twins to begin with, but they got to get some more. Both those sisters got to get some more in-ring work before they should be anywhere near a pay-per-view. And unfortunately, they did get one, but it's just not good right now. The Bellas are out of touch, And especially put them with Maurice, who's even more out of touch. I thought Maurice was doing much better in ring, less botches, less mistakes. But to have them on the main event, I thought it was very, very odd. I know they're trying to build up, obviously, with Daniel Bryan and The Miz. And obviously what happened was that, surprise, surprise, somebody dodges a kick, and then, Brie gets hurt by Daniel Bryan, who didn't see that coming. But just to have them in the main event, I thought was very, very strange. Good form. It actually wasn't a terrible match. It was okay. But SmackDown hasn't been up to snuff compared to what their previous shows were. They had these last 2 SmackDowns have been okay. They've been, so-so. But the SmackDowns before that, months leading up to it, have just been knocking it out of the park. They've been really taking on a whole new level. I think it comes with kind of Samoa Joe versus AJ Styles have kind of blocked out the whole rest of the roster. But I think we are going to see this eclipse of all these teams come in, all these teams being formed. I was a huge NWO fan, so I am encouraging it, whether it sinks or whether it swims. I like the Divas Revolution when they had done those teams. I thought it was enjoyable as well. That it's just hard to have a group with strong voices in it to be able to work for everybody. But I think if they can pull it off, it would be a super new golden era for the organization and for wrestling as a whole. I love it when you get the teams and everyone going in crazy battles. It's always a good match when you have. Well, I just like more the better when it comes to a match, and when it comes to that, I want to see the teams. Bring them on as many as you like. Make them ridiculous. Do what you want to do. With all of that, to touch base on the Hardys, one sad bit of news is Matt Hardy, brother of Jeff. Does he retire? You could clearly see in his recent matches he had something wrong with his legs. The fact that he was even able to perform with how bad he was hobbling, it's like he couldn't even put any weight on his one leg. It looked super awkward. How he was still doing all the moves and pulling them off with that, I have no clue. But that is the rumor where he has basically said that he is done. His hips are too bad to continue, and he will not have even a retirement match, which is even shittier in my books, especially a guy who had reinvented himself, beat drug addiction, reinvents himself to one of the hottest gimmicks in the broken gimmick, come over to WWE, have that huge WrestleMania match, which I thought was one of the biggest pops I had heard in a very long time, and to keep the audience guessing when it came to it, to have everybody, they had everything planned to make it look like they were leaving, but then Orlando, but they were still there. I thought it was an amazing move, and to have them when they came, I was excited, and it's just such a shame that to be the broken Matt Hardy, to go from that to be done. I just feel so sorry for the dude. Guy who struggled, always one of my favorite wrestlers with the Hardy Boys. Love them together. But if he's got to go, hopefully WWE gives him a good backstage job, which apparently is what is happening. But if he doesn't he's too old, I think, to get surgery and to make a return. I think he's in his 40s as well. But very sad to see broken Matt Hardy go, especially when he was helping Bray Wyatt too. All those rumors of Bray Wyatt now starting a new stable as well. I'm very interested to see who comes with that. If maybe join Sanity, maybe create some new guys out of nowhere. Who knows? I think with the Authors of Pain, he'd be a lot better than Drake Maverick. I can say that. But the other big rumor is one of my most favorite, especially on the independent, my number one favorite independent wrestler, Pentagon Jr. and his brother Phoenix are reportedly in talks with the WWE to come over to NXT. Both, like I said, I love Pentagon Jr. I think he's amazing in Lucha Underground, all the independent work he does. But I think this is a bad move for both the brothers. Number one, they don't speak English. Do whatever you want to do when it comes to sports. But I think when it comes to wrestling, if you can't speak English to the fans, no one's gonna come watch you. It happened to the first Sin Cara, couldn't speak English. Mystico or Caristico or whatever the heck he goes by these days, couldn't speak English. Fans could not do it. Same with the luchas they have right now with the in 205 Live. They can't speak English, and they are never on. They're only a part of a team with the other luchadors. And they all just have their matches and have nothing. They'll never flourish or anything like that. Cien Cien, I think he's one of those guys that is a perfect example of that as well. They're working on his English, but his English is so bad that he can't do it. Thank God he has his mouthpiece which can talk for him. But I just think, I'm not saying that's bad that you can't speak English at all. I'm not saying that at all. All I'm saying is that you need to be able to speak English to communicate and connect with the crowd. That's all it works. Obviously, he's a megastar in Mexico, as his brother is as well. But I just think he would probably make a bigger paycheck in NXT. There's no doubt about that. But he does so much independent work. I think it'd be probably pretty tough with Lucha Underground. Even TNA loves him. Rumor is he is going to be coming back to AAA. All the other Mexican organizations he's a part of. There's that big organization where him and his brother are the tag team champs. I think it's out of Missouri. But I just don't know. I think Phoenix, it fits better. And I love Pentagon Jr. for who he is. He's an amazing, very, very cool new style wrestler. Could it work for NXT? I think that's about it, but I just don't want them to be regulated to 205. Those guys are way better than 205. 205 Live is garbage. It's a terrible show to watch. I feel sorry for any dude who's on that. It just doesn't work for me. It's just like, oh, look, everyone can do a 540 frog splash. It doesn't do it for me. Everyone's the same dude who does like 1,000 flips and has zero mic skills. That's every single one of them. And I just don't like it. It just doesn't work for me. You got Drew Gulak is like one of the main guys. It's like, he is terrible. You want to talk about a guy who's got zero mic skills, Drew Gulak, and I think he's probably one of the better guys on the mic in 205 Live. Do Pentagon Jr. and Phoenix come to NXT? I hope not, but the rumor is they are. Just watched Hell in a Cell. It was very good, very exciting. We might have some other things to get to, but we might as well get right into it. I do like great matches. It was. I think it lived up to the bill. It wasn't at least what Hell in the Cells have been in the past, where it's just a Raw on a Sunday. No one loses a title. All the matches are pretty much the same. I think we will see some tweaking of some rivalries and some controversy. I opened up with I didn't watch the pre-fight. I just watched the main event. Jeff Hardy versus Randy Orton. I thought was a crazy match. Both those guys really hurt each other, with Jeff Hardy being thrown to the inside of the ladder. It basically cut his shirt and messed his belt up. Cut his belt right in half and his shirt. I'm surprised he didn't get cut by it. So he was having problems with his pants the whole time. He couldn't do up his pants. The button was broken. His belt was broken. Has to finish a match. And then I'm not going to get into the screwdriver incident. With the screwdriver was pretty disgusting. But for him to get hurt, and then for Randy Orton to get really messed up with that broken chair, he had a huge gash in his leg. It was disgusting. And then when he hit him with the belt, he got the belting from Randy Orton, but when he took his belt and hit him, he didn't have it was a studded belt. And he didn't have the spikes in. He had the spikes out, and he hit him, and he just had like a huge crisscross pattern of bleeding on his back. It was pretty nutty. And then to come hang from the cage and drop through that ladder, it's got to be 20 feet. And to call that match, I thought it was a good ending to the match. Hopefully their rivalry is over right now, and both those guys can move on. Randy Orton's a really weird spot where I don't know where he's going to go from here on. I think he always is the better wrestler when he is the Viper and the guy who hears voices in his head and stuff like that. I do really love that when it comes to him. And hopefully Jeff Hardy can move back on. Where does Shinsuke fit with this? Guy's the American USA champ, and he's not even on the card. Like, how does that happen? I don't know why they're dropping off of Shinsuke Nakamura. I really think they need to reintroduce him. I hope it's against somebody else, not one of those two guys. It probably will be, because there's not too many dance partners on SmackDown Live. So I think that's where he will probably go next, is another feud with Randy Orton, and we'll see where that goes. Good win for Becky. I really enjoy seeing her win the championship belt. I thought at the end when Charlotte reached out for the handshake, she should have slapped her or something like that, not just walked away or held the belt up and walked away. I think she should have slapped her as a more of an FU moment, and I think that really would have worked over with the crowd. I think the crowd would have been super shocked by that, but they didn't go with it. They move on, and I don't know where this goes for them. Hopefully somebody else gets a crack at the belt, like Naomi again. She's been really regulated to jobbing to other girls and putting other girls over. When it comes to the Raw tag titles, good again for them, for the Dogs of War, the Strowman Squad to winning with Dirty Tactics again. There were a lot of talk that Ambrose and Rollins were going to win the belts, but I highly doubt it with the amount of heat and the amount of fire that they are playing with right now with McIntyre and Ziggler. I think it's the best move for Ziggler in his career right now is to be with McIntyre. When McIntyre will turn on him, it's not if, but it is when he will turn on him, and one day he will turn on him. I think that even works out even better as well because McIntyre is just playing this super mean ass big heel, and I think it just really works well for him as well. Coming back, what a story with Drew McIntyre, a guy who was in the 3-man band, like he had like one of the worst gigs. He was jobbing to everybody, leaves the organization, goes to TNA, reinvents himself as kind of this Scottish ass kicking tough guy. He does so good, gets his shot back at NXT where he rules NXT, becomes that champ, tears his bicep, comes back, and now he's really one of the top guys in WWE. I think his mic skills are great. His in-ring is amazing for how big he is. He's a huge dude, and he's super athletic. I love to see Drew McIntyre, and I can't wait to see what the future shows for him. AJ Lee with Samoa Joe, like I was touching on base on before, I just thought it was one of those things where to have these guys fought each other too many times. The match was still a very good match. And speaking of good matches, I forgot to touch base on the Raw title match. That last 10 pins, that was a crazy sequence at the end. They really brought the house down as Rollins usually does. And I can imagine, Ziggler I do smack on Ziggler and don't enjoy him that much, but he is a good in-ring performer. So they had a great, but back to AJ Styles and Samoa Joe, they had a great match. I thought, it was one of their normal matches. It wasn't really anything a little bit better, a little bit less. I thought the ending sequence, obviously with him pinning him but tapping at the same time and having that little bit of controversy, I really think it leads up to something else where I think Samoa Joe does build a stable, and then in turn AJ Styles brings back the Bullet Club, or that's going to be the Balor Club, or whatever club he's going to bring back with the club. I love the club, guys. I love Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows. Absolutely love them. I love it when they were the tag team champs. I don't know why they don't show them much more. Great in-ring performers, and I like them on the mic too. I don't mind them at all. A lot of people hate on them, but I say more of the club. The mixed tag match between the Miz and Maurice, and then as I thought Maurice really burned Daniel Bryan when he called her Daniel Bella. I thought, man, that was smooth move by Maurice. I love that. Typical match, as you would have thought. A lot of obviously trickery between the Miz's, and it was an okay match. Like I said, I wasn't excited to see them fight on SmackDown, and obviously the Miz and Maurice won. I think in total cheating fashion, which is what they have to do and which they're going to go with. But it's one of those things where how long does this rivalry go on for? I know they actually have real life heat, so it works, but how much are they going to beat this dead horse? If it goes on past WrestleMania, I'd be pretty disgusted, and I wouldn't want to watch it anymore. I'd be pretty bored with it. I'm kind of bored with it right now, just because Daniel Bryan has really proven to be not that good on the mic, and he's up against The Miz on the mic. It's just one of those situations where he's super outclassed, and it's tough. Miz is one of those guys where I had to test it. I couldn't stand The Miz. When he was the champ, and he had that huge rivalry with John Cena, I could not stand him. I thought, this is the dark ages of WWE. The Miz is the champ. This is the worst. And he really, for all purposes, he really wasn't that great back then. When he reinvented himself as this chauvinist movie star, I think I think it really reinvented himself into this super mega heel. He can't go back from this. I think being this super pretty boy heel works perfectly for him, and he does a great job on the mic too. I think that's what also does it. He's so quick witted. He's really making fun of the fans. He's making fun of the other guys. No one could really hold a mic to him. Maybe on SmackDown, I don't think anyone can hold a mic to him. But he is doing a great job. Way to reinvent himself into he is a true legend, and he will be a Hall of Famer one of these days as well. Speaking of another girl we haven't seen, Asuka. I don't know what they're doing with Asuka. I guess she did have one hell of a run where I think she was probably wrestling for 2 or 3 years solid. Probably maybe she's just getting some downtime, but apparently she is on the dark matches, and I think it's just so weird that they would have built her up so high as this Goldberg of a woman and just to be destroying chicks. She has lost a few matches now, obviously now, which was bound to happen, but now you don't see her anywhere. Same with Nia Jax as well. Where both these women and are they going to reintroduce them to two different brands, or are they just going to maybe give them some time off? I'm not sure what's happening with them, but we need to see the both of them back. I can't wait to see both of them back. So a huge Asuka fan. Nia Jax was really starting to grow on me. I thought her in-ring ability was pretty poor, but I thought she was actually pretty good on the mic. And when it came down to it, she started getting better. She wasn't injuring girls every time she fought them. Rousey versus Alexa for the belt. I was just glad it wasn't a squash match. But Ronda's got to do something about her shorts. She's always playing with them. They're always looking uncomfortable. They're always riding up on her. Do something with your shorts. Or get different shorts altogether. Go with a different style. Because I'm tired of seeing you readjust your shorts every goddamn 2 seconds. She seriously was this close tonight, Kelly, to having a wardrobe malfunction where she fell out of her top. It was very close. And she's got to do something with her whole wardrobe. She's got to rethink it, because she's not playing with her shorts, pulling them down because they're riding up on her. She's popping out of her top, and she's got to come up with some idea. It was not a flattering
something
look.
That stays on.
Yeah, exactly. Something that stays on. Exactly. She did win. I'm just glad it wasn't a total squash match like the last time she went up against Alexa. Alexa's my number one girl in WWE with a bullet. No one could touch Alexa on the mic, in ring. I really thought it was odd that they gave Ronda the belt to begin with so quickly. I think it is working obviously with the crowd. She is quite popular with the crowd, and she's selling merchandise. I think that's the main reason why I do it. You see a lot of her shirts. She is really selling merchandise at such an early start. Her mic skills aren't terrible. They aren't good. But I think with the match, especially tonight on Hell in a Cell, she needed some more work. It was very sloppy. There was a few, like I said, there's a few moments where Alexa had grab her twice to throw her, and it didn't work too well. I hope this title match, she loses the belt at maybe the Super Showdown in Australia. But I don't know. I couldn't see her having it for much longer. They got to give it back to Alexa or somebody else. Who else they give it to, I don't know. And then Strowman versus Roman for the main event in the Hell in a Cell. I thought it was a great match. I thought they were really going at it, really putting on a good show, beating the crap out of each other, and then to have the Strowman squad and then to have the Shield come down and they fight each other on top of the cage. I thought that was a really cool touch, and to have, of course, it'd be Rollins and Ziggler's the two good performers jumping off the side. They weren't on the top, that's a far drop to the sides to drop onto both those commentating tables. I thought was a cool touch. But then the guy I was talking about, I didn't even know about this when I had planned to talk about Brock Lesnar, who shows up. Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar comes down, kicks the door off its hinges, and comes in and beats up both dudes. I thought it was a really cool move. It was super shocking, very unexpected. Great move for Brock Lesnar. The crowd really had a huge pop when his music played. I thought it was a super cool move just to come down, and that's what he does. That's why he gets paid the big bucks. He just shows up, beats everyone up, and leaves. And I think this is exactly what he did tonight. I thought it was an awesome way to end it too. Because he screwed Braun Strowman, because they kind of have some actual heat too in real life. He screws Braun Strowman out of the title, and leaves it with Roman Reigns, which I think is working right now. I think Roman's as hot as he's going to get right now. They had tried so hard to ram him down our throats and try to get him over. It didn't work. They kept on trying to fit the square peg into a round circle, and eventually that peg got worn down so much it fit into the slot, and Roman Reigns is so over right now. You hardly hear the boos. The boos are now drowned out by the cheers, and you're seeing a lot of his merchandise, especially with women. Women are loving, and I think they always have loved Roman Reigns, but I think there's just much, much more people out there who are on the Roman Reigns bandwagon, and it took Brock Lesnar to get him to that spot, and to have him come down and beat him up and still say, hey, I am relevant. I haven't gone anywhere yet. I'm still here to collect a paycheck, obviously, and come down and beat you guys up when it's most opportunistic for myself. I thought it was a great power move by Brock Lesnar, keeping him very relevant. When does his upcoming UFC fight come? No one really knows. And is it going to be against Daniel Cormier? I am shocked that is going to be the fight, but I could see them giving him somebody else. I would like to see him actually against, obviously, the other super fight that was swirling around was John Jones, because they had a little bit of heat as well. Obviously, that would be a super great fight. People would really love to see that one. I could see that one being one of the top-selling MMA events of all time. If not, I'd even like to see him against Cain Velasquez again. I think up against Cain Velasquez would be another good matchup, a rematch. Whenever Cain Velasquez does come back, who knows what day will be, if he ever does. He just seems like he can never get healthy, and obviously has to go, like you touched base on earlier, Kelly, with his training regimen. He just killed his body, and when you're that big and you're going that hard, your stuff's going to break down a lot quicker than a lighter guy. And so we'll never know when you're going to see Brock Lesnar, whether it be UFC or WWE, touch base. He wrote this story for me. I had an idea to touch base on Brock Lesnar, and here he shows up. The night that we're doing this podcast, he shows back up at WWE. I was shocked and I was blown away. I love the move. I think it just really keeps him very, very relevant. Good move for Brock Lesnar. And what that comes moving forward. I'm going to touch base a little bit on the UFC. We did have a UFC this Saturday in Russia. It was a very good card. Apparently they were saying it was like the number 5 all-time gate for a UFC event. Was this event? I think it was like 22,000, 23,000 people. It was a sold-out arena in Moscow. It wasn't the best of cards, but it wasn't. It didn't really have any real names, big names. I know they had a few prospects, and they had some older dudes, which I enjoy. I'm a huge Andrei Arlovsky fan. Seen him live against Fedor, but I got to touch base on Andrei. I feel really bad for him because he got totally punked out he got on a TV show in Russia, and he has lots of friends in Russia. Did you hear about this story?
No.
Yeah, I feel so sorry for him because he goes to this Russian TV show, and they're just totally ragging on him. They're showing nothing but highlights of him getting knocked out, and they're just talking about Fedor the whole time. And he's just like, I didn't come here to talk about Fedor. I came here to talk about myself and my upcoming fight. And he just eventually walked off. In good form. I felt really bad for the dude. I was just like, oh man, like I love Andre, and the fact that they didn't give him that respect, I was pretty disgusted. They were obviously doing it for publicity, to try to make their show get some recognition. I thought it was a really, really disgraceful move. How are you going to move on for the future when, especially because this card was such a success that they are planning a huge pay-per-view, and now I can guarantee that TV show is not going to get any fighters talking on it because you made a fool of a legend. I think that was a really, really stupid move by the TV show. And I felt bad for Arlovsky. I heard him in an interview, and he's a super nice guy, and for them to take advantage of him like that, I thought it was disgusting. One guy they did have as a big time prospect, which I thought was weird. It was actually an okay fight. It was the guy who fought Thiago Alves, Alexei Kuchkanov. It was a good fight. It was really back and forth, but I didn't see much. A lot of people are saying that this guy is the next big thing. I didn't see all that much coming out of him, honestly. Thiago Alves isn't anywhere near what he used to be. He's much, much older now. He's definitely lost his step. and this Alexi guy didn't really put it on him. They had some decent exchanges, but I thought that it was very, very close. For a split decision, you want to see that dude. If you're going to make my prospect list, you better be knocking people out. This guy didn't do it. Goes the distance with Thiago Alves, which I thought, if you're going to beat up somebody, it should be Thiago Alves, especially if this dude is 19-0. That's quite a record. He's obviously done a ton of M1 stuff. And I think he is a former Russian soldier. So the dude is tough as hell. But when I seen the fight, I just didn't see enough out of him to really say, hey, you're an up and coming prospect. Like everyone else is really, really tooting his horn. Does the next fight come out? He comes out swinging. We'll see. But as of right now, you're off the list, buddy. You're not nowhere near the list. Nowhere near the list. But I thought Arlovsky up against, again, talk about Arlovsky, he had a fight against Shamil Akamurumahav. It's way too many letters there. But I thought Henry did enough. Shamil did have a good game plan. They both kind of exchanged takedowns. No one really had the other guy in trouble. I think Shamil maybe did a bit more damage on the ground, and he did have him when he had Arlovsky pin up against the fence when he was getting up. He kind of fed him a few good shots. But I really had thought Arlovsky had done enough. He had a few really slick, quick little trip takedowns. Obviously, I'm biased. I like the guy. But I didn't see enough for Shamil to be able to take it, especially for it to maybe be a split decision. I could have seen that, maybe 2 rounds to 2-1 for each guy. One guy I feel sorry for is a local guy, Raging Cajun Johnson. He's from BC. I think he's from northern BC. Fights out of TriStar now, but they just keep putting him up against these super tough Dagestani Russians, and I think he's just some stoner guy from BC. That's exactly what he seems like. Super nice guy. I used to train at that Langley gym all the time, but that Langley gym is long gone. I think it was like Revolution or something like that. I think it was Revolution MMA. A lot of big fighters came through there, and Cajun Johnson was one of those guys who there was his main camp, but he's obviously moved on. Something happened to that camp. I don't know what. The gym is still there, but no fighters fight out of it anymore. I mean, they just must have switched gears or something. But to lose to another Dagestani Russian and Rustam Kabalov, that was a very tough fight. It went to split decision at least. But they're giving him some real tough battles. It was a last second match too. The co-main event, Jan Blachowicz versus Nikita Al Capone Krylov. I thought that was on paper. I thought that one was really going to be fireworks. And Krylov, he kind of came out a little bit lackadaisical. And Jan just really put it on him, and to sink in that weird submission. He's beat other guys with it too. It's almost like a side rear naked choke. It doesn't look like it would have enough torque on it to really be able to choke someone out, but just worked 2 times in a row. And that's why I always thought when it comes to chokes, it doesn't have to be the jiu-jitsu textbook. If you're choking somebody out, it can be multiple different ways. As long as if it works, it works. Go with it, and good for Jan. He's kind of a guy who's kind of reinvented himself recently as well. I think he's coming off of 3 wins, and one is Jimmy Manawa. And yeah, he's actually on a 4-fight win streak right now. He lost to Alexander Gustafsson. He only lost by decision, and then lost to Patrick Cummings, another close decision. And then he, beaten Jared Cannonier. I think that was probably one of his biggest wins. Jared Cannonier had a ton of hype behind him, and he was really knocking dudes out. So he beat Devin Clark, Cannonier. He comes back to avenge his loss to Jimmy Manawa, and then he chokes out Krylov. He's really on a roll right now, and good on him. I think what they really need to do is they got to do some fights in Poland. I think they did have one card there, and it must have done pretty good. But Poland loves MMA. It's huge. KSW is massive. And I think if they can go over there and have some old legends fight, I can guarantee you it'll put asses in seats. I enjoy some of the KSW cards. They're a bit over the top. I'm not the hugest Mariusz Pudzianowski fan. I'm not Polish, but he can fight. I'll give him that. Kind of. I think he's just more doing it for fun. Obviously, he's just he's the world's strongest man, and he can knock people out, which I think a lot of world's strongest men can't say that. They'd probably squash somebody, but they'd probably quickly gas out or not have the skill to be able to beat somebody up. These dudes are so huge they can't wipe their own butts. But But I enjoy it. But I think that's what they have to do. And I think with Jan Blachowicz, I think they can go. They have a legitimate contender that they can take to Poland. Maybe have a title shot in Poland or somewhere in Europe like Germany or something like that. Have him on the card. I think it's a great fit. Touch base on the main event of Alexei Olenek versus Mark Hunt. Huge fan of the Super Samoan. Huge fan of all his K1 fights, early Pride stuff. The fact that this guy is still fighting is absolutely amazing. Losing, they obviously wanted him to lose, to put him up against the best grappler right now, basically at heavyweight. They obviously wanted him to lose. You're putting a striker. Mark Hunt has never been known for his ground game. He's always been known that his ground game is terrible. To put him up against Olenek was obviously a death sentence. They want him out. He's talked too much. They don't like it when he makes fun of the dudes who fail their piss tests, obviously. And he rightfully said everything he's saying isn't wrong. That's why I have no problem with what Mark Hunt is saying. Everything he's saying is right. And just the fact he called out Brock Lesnar that he was going to fail, and he did. And he's he called out Verdum. He's called out a lot of guys. He doesn't like it, and I agree. He's obviously not a guy who's going to be on roids, and I agree with him. He should be calling these dudes out, but unfortunately, it is the nature of the game that people are always going to look for that edge. But obviously, he gets choked out. Good form by Olenek. He took that huge shot, a huge punch. He was eating those leg kicks like crazy. I've never seen Mark Hunt throw so many leg kicks, but that one, it instantly welted up the back of his knee. It hurt. It must have hurt so bad. But for him to be able to still have the strength to drag him down and then sink in that choke, it was a nasty choke. But what Mark Hunt did wrong, and obviously I'm on the outside looking in, he turned into the arm. When you're in a rear naked choke like that, you got to turn into the armpit, not towards the hands. Because if he's turning towards the hands, he's gonna get the arm, which is the straight. He's gonna get the forearm, which is the part is doing the choking out. You turn into the armpit. You have the elbow as your breathing space. That's all he did to make that one wrong mistake, 2 seconds, and it's all over. Good win for Olenek, and very gracious as always in defeat is Mark Hunt. I'll always see him again. Whether this is the end of his UFC career, he'll have a very lucrative career over in Bellator. I guarantee you they are just licking their chops, hoping that he does leave so he can go over there. And frankly, I want him to go over to Bellator. I think he can end his career against a lot of good guys more of his fighting style, strikers. The dude's 13-13 though. You know what I mean? He's been up and down so many times in his career. He really had that long run in the UFC where it was basically, you win this fight, you're gonna get the title shot. But unfortunately, he lost to Junior Dos Santos. I remember it was really was so hyped for Mark Hunt. I really thought that was going to be his chance, and he didn't make it. But he's beat a lot of good dudes. He knocked out Derek Lewis, knocked out Frank Mir, obviously knocked out Antonio Silva. He also went to the draw with Antonio Silva. That was a great fight. He knocked out he did knock out Roy Nelson, Stefan Struve, Czech Congo. Ben Rothwell, he actually went to the distance. But remember, I think that guy was bitching about his pay too. I think that's why we don't see Ben Rothwell anymore. I'm pretty sure last fight was 2016. So yeah, he hasn't fought in a long time. I wonder what happened to Ben Rothwell. He lost to Junior Dos Santos, and it wasn't a terrible decision. It was pretty close, but he was on that tear. He beat Overeem, he beat Matt Mitrione, beat Josh Barnett, he beat like two of my favorites. Heavyweight. I was so pissed off with the dude, and he loses to Junior Dos Santos, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was about. I think he was bitching about pay. Oh, suspended for 2 years. Oh, okay, that makes sense. All right. He failed his piss test.
The golden snitch.
USADA's the worst. It's just all these dudes. They're just being gone. Like Verdum, he's gonna be gone forever. I think he's gonna be 44 when he comes back, and it's just. I understand you have to have testing, but this is the most rigorous, worst testing you can do for fighters. This is not the Olympics.
And he's 36 years old with a 2-year suspension. He'll be coming back at 38 if he fights again.
Exactly. Like, wow. But there's a dude who'd have thought he'd fail. Well, even look at Josh Barnett. Josh Barnett's failed 3 times. Caused the end. He caused the collapse of Affliction because he couldn't pass his piss test. But he definitely does not look a guy who takes steroids. But Josh Barnett takes them very regularly. It seems like one of my absolute favorite fighters. I love that he's a pro. He's a pro wrestler as well. Huge fan. When I went to go see him in Affliction, I bought his shirt, the War Master shirt. Love Josh Barnett, but he did have a match in TNA against Moose. It was not very good. I don't think it was against Moose. I can't remember who it was up against, but it was not a very good match. I know he's huge in Japan, and people love him in Japan, and I think that's where he kind of needs to stay. They have more of that strong style, more of the mixture of MMA with the pro wrestling, because they do a lot more of the open hand strikes when it comes to pro wrestling. I think he's probably at that point where he doesn't need to do anything right now. He can just live off training people and different things from Japan. But I would love to see Josh Barnett fight again, whether it be in a pro wrestling ring or in an MMA ring. I would love to see him come back. It wasn't a great card. I thought it should have had somebody else more rushing, because Alexei Olenek, he's lived in Florida for quite a long time now. He's moved to Florida and lived there for quite some time. So I thought it was odd that they had him. A lot of older guys on the card. Even Arlovsky was actually the third oldest. He wasn't even the oldest guy on the card. Olenek is quite old. Yeah, Olenek is quite old. And then Mark Hunt, and then it goes Andrei Arlovsky. Like I said, they should have had a bit of a bigger name, especially if it's the first time in Russia. I was surprised that they didn't do that, because the Russian fans are ravenous for MMA. They absolutely love it. They have so many organizations over there. So many like Dagestinis and just normal Russians that are really into it as well. They have tons of talent over there. But I hopefully the next one they do bring a big event with lots of Russian fighters. I would love to see that. But like I said, it wasn't the best of cards. It wasn't bad though. Do you hear about the BJ Penn is making a return?
I did.
Yeah, I am disgusted.
After his last fight, why wouldn't you want to watch him again?
His last 3 fights. He
gets better every time.
I just don't know why he still keeps doing it. I was probably one of the biggest BJ Penn fans. He's really what got me into jiu-jitsu was BJ Penn. I was just like, if this guy is really tearing dudes up, what's going to happen? What's going to happen when he fights somebody tough? I think is one of his best fights was up against Matt Hughes. When he beat him the first time, I thought, man, this dude's for real. This guy's one of the best fighters of all time. But I just don't understand why he's still got to come back. I think he's on his 6th fight.
He's fighting Ryan Hall at UFC 232 in Las Vegas.
Yeah. And especially don't give him some young up and coming guy like what they had. Yair Rodriguez just killed him, and if Ryan Hall is not one of those guys as well, I just don't know what the decision behind, because I know he's got money. He doesn't need the money. This guy Ryan Hall, he fights actually at a TriStar, but he is American. Has 2 wins, both by decision. He beat Lobov. Connor's buddy there, and Gray Maynard, both by decision. He looks like he's kind of a smaller 145, but just come on, man, BJ Penn, you gotta stay away, man. You're like one of my favorite fighters of all time. You're only tarnishing your career here. No one's gonna remember all your great fights. Even losing to Nick Diaz, losing to Rory McDonald. The last time, the third Frankie Edgar fight, when I was like, don't come back. No, that was terrible. He came in with that weird fighting style where he had his head up high and his gloves underneath his chin, and he just got opened up. It just was open invitation for Frankie Edgar just to punch him in the head. And you lose from TKO to Frankie Edgar. You lose TKO to Yair Rodriguez, which was, a total beatdown. The guy was huge. Rodriguez was massive compared to BJ Penn. And then a bad decision to Dennis Seaver, and that fight was not very good either. UFC gave you the easiest fight against Seaver. He's just that little tiny little dude. Great fighter. He's got great heart, but he's never really been known for that guy to knock anybody out, or his arms are so short. He's like a German Sean Shirk, which BJ Penn destroyed. I just totally disagree with the move to come back for another fight, and now you're going to lose to nobodies. It's just a terrible idea. But what is fueling these decisions for him to come? The love of the fight? Just make up your own organization in Hawaii and fight on those cards. You know what I mean?
Some cans, yeah.
Yeah, fight some cans. Do that. Because coming to the UFC is just kind of becoming embarrassing. For such a legend to still want to do that. You know, he hasn't even lost. He hasn't won since 2010 was his last win. He hasn't won in 8 years. Still going to come back out there. You know, he had beat Matt Hughes, had a draw against John Fitch. That was a rough fight to watch. But then, you know, the Rory McDonald fight was actually pretty good. I thought the Rory McDonald fight was actually okay. And I thought he still had it in him, but I was sadly mistaken. He had a great rivalry with Matt Hughes. That's what I'll give him. I always love Matt Hughes, and I think he had a great when he beat Matt Hughes and won the 170 belt, and then kind of had a contract holdout where he wanted more money, and then I think he went over to K1 and where he went super bloated and fought Lyoto Machida at 205. Somehow he's had a lot of good fights, but I just don't know what is still in there for him to want to do it. It's just I thought it was a very weird move. I think we have to touch base today on Floyd Mayweather coming back out of retirement again. Obviously for some more money. What is this? What else is this? Speaking of people who don't need to fight, I guess Floyd means another diamond encrusted tiger or something, because he's fighting Pacquiao again for the second fight. I think if it is a fight that does make sense, because Pacquiao did say he had a bad shoulder the first fight. So I think this will work. Obviously, people will sell it. The fight that went on the weekend, Canelo versus GGG, I think Triple G, I think it was a lot of people watched it. That's for damn sure. I heard I didn't watch it. I know the results, but I know it wasn't that great of a fight. And it opens up a rubber match between those two dudes. I think boxing right now is at a point where it is on the upswing of talent. I think obviously with that they need heavyweights, just like everything else. You need heavyweights, and with Tyson Fury coming back, I think it makes it a little bit. It makes it a bit more of one guy versus one guy. I think he is the third guy in there, with Wilder and the British dude, and but I just think it's weird that Floyd Mayweather has to come back. It's obviously gonna be huge money for him and Pacquiao. So it was easy enough. They would definitely sign on the dotted line. But I think we're going to get a bad match. I think you're going to get an exhibition match. And I think it's just going to be a ruse just for money. No one's even going to give a shit. If no one's going to get knocked out. I guarantee it's obviously going to be a Floyd Mayweather win again. But it just doesn't make sense for fans to watch. It makes sense for the people who are involved who are going to make lots of money off of this. But it does not make one lick of sense for the fans viewing it. I think it's going to be a snore fest. I think it's going to be garbage. And I would take any other match in MMA over it. But I can see why they did it. That's about it when it comes to fight news for me this week. But I have been playing... You've been playing any new video games recently, Kelly?
Just a lot of Fortnite.
Oh yeah, Fortnite it up. It'll be one of those games that just never goes away.
Have you seen Tyron Woodley made a rap song?
Yes.
Have you heard it?
I haven't heard it actually, no.
Do you want to pause it, listen to it, and then we'll record again after we listen to it and give our thoughts?
All right, we'll be back right after this break. Wow.
He's gonna beat your ass.
I know. I'm worried he is gonna beat my ass. He should Tyrone stick to fighting, man. Stick to fighting. That was rough. I guarantee that cost him a lot of money to make that song. It totally reminds me. It's like a rip off of 3-6 Mafia. As when I heard the beat is super. I think he is from Memphis or Kansas City or somewhere in the south there. So it does make sense, but rough.
Not a lot to it. I wonder if he's gonna walk out to the song.
I think he has to. Yeah, I think he has to. Yeah.
Walking out to your own rap
I don't
song.
know, because he uses the N-word in there. I don't think UFC's gonna allow that unless they blur it out or something like that.
They might. Yeah.
Yeah, he'd have to have a radio version of it. Yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah, it's terrible song, Tyrone. Terrible song.
2 thumbs down.
Yeah, 2 thumbs. This approval on that song. I'm not gonna be buying the album. Go and start. You remember when you used to get those like Columbia House
Yes.
Those CDs. Yeah, exactly. He'd be in that. He'd be.
He'd be the one you forgot to cancel your subscription.
Well, you get like
oh,
you got
man.
like you got like 18 or something like that, and then like he'd be like the extra one, like he like the extra one that they'd give to you, the total free one that no one ever bought. I could see just having Wiz Khalifa on it. Obviously, people are gonna listen to it, but I think Wiz Khalifa cost them an extra $100,000 or something. Maybe they're buddies, or maybe he goes at his gym. But I have been playing a new game. I was playing Wolfenstein for long, and Wolfenstein 2 for a while. Super intense, super hard game. Good first-person shooter. I thought it was super gruesome. Definitely not a game you want to have for your kids. Some of the cutscenes were super gruesome. Like this chick gets her head cut off, and then this huge robot stomps the skull after the evil Nazi chick made you make out with a severed head, and then the robot stomps it flat. Yeah, it was pretty messed up. And then you have to like kill your dad, and you have all these cutscenes. You have these cutscenes of your dad being super abusive to you and shit. It's pretty intense. Like the gameplay is actually quite good. I was only playing on medium, and man, it was hard. It was so intense. It's just constant battle. I think they really brought a lot of good effects from a lot of good pieces and parts from the original computer game. But obviously gave it a new spin to it. The graphics are super amazing. If I can take anything from it, definitely visually it's just absolutely nuts. But it is a hard game, and even on medium, I was having some trouble. But I didn't want to turn it down, obviously, from medium to go to an easy difficulty. I always ended up beating the missions, and you always have like these like commanders who they're always giving out. If you don't kill the commander, you're just constantly getting attacked, swarmed. So once you figure out where the commanders are in each one of these little sections, it's a lot easier to play. And you could stealthily play it and play differently. The game gets pretty nutty, though. I don't want to spoil too much of it, but it's like you eventually get captured and you have this crazy battle when you in like the courtroom, because obviously it's all sham that you're getting sentenced to death pretty much, and then you break out, and then you have this crazy cutscene with your mom, and it was all like an illusion. And then you get, then next thing you know, you wake up and you're about to get your head chopped off, and your head gets chopped off, but your buddies save your head when it gets tossed into like this huge this big burning chasm. Your buddies save your head with a drone, and they bring it, and so the scientist on your ship has special technology to keep your head alive, and then he reattaches your head to another body, and you keep playing the game. So I thought, oh, the game's over. We gave it a good shot. It was a fun game. I'm here to get my head chopped off. No, game's still going for quite some time. Good game all in all. I got fed up with it because I got to a part where it was so fucking hard, and I went on a Vermintide too. You want to talk about super intense games? That's a fun game. It's a lot like I got this preview game that's in demo preview mode. This Deep Rock Galactic, super fun game where you have a team of 4 and you go in and digging in these tunnels and fighting bugs and stuff like that. But you have different classes, and that's a lot like with this Vermintide 2 is you have different classes. Warrior, mage, archer, the little stealthy dwarf, and then you level your dudes up throughout. Your each individual character gets more level ups the more you use them, and I thought it was a nice touch. But you just get wave after wave of guys in your team of 4. I've actually really enjoyed the game. Super intense. I like the RPG aspect to it, and it's just a ton of fun, especially when you're playing. You can play with your buddies, but I've never had a problem with playing with somebody online. Usually you play those games and you get somebody who's not playing part of the team, and you can't do it with all 4 people. And I just kind of like it's a little bit of special trinkets and bullshit like that, like kind of like Wolfenstein 2 had a lot of special stuff. Like if you explored the map a lot more between getting your head blown off and stuff like that, you could find a lot of cool little special stuff that really didn't mean anything, but it was just to add to the game. Good games. I haven't, but other than that, it's really been taking up most of my time. Have you seen that Karate Combat?
I have not.
Yeah, you gotta check it out. Boss Rutan is like the color commentator on it. It's the few fights I have seen are super intense. It's just kind of like bare knuckle boxing, basically. They have like kind of a ring that has, it's just like an enclosed ring with kind of like foam, but it's kind of like slanted at the top. So kind of if you want to run away, you kind of can run away. But these dudes are killers. They wear like MMA gloves, and it is like karate rules. But it's more like a bare knuckle fight where it's dude who's not breathing anymore loses.
Can you punch, or is it like open palm slaps?
No, you can punch. Yeah, you can
Wow.
punch and kick.
Okay.
Yeah, and like spinning back fists and knees and elbows and that type of thing. And it's deadly. But it was super gruesome. The one I watched on the weekend, the dude broke the bottom of his foot, and it was nasty. It was a super nasty kick, but it was. I think that's one organization. It looks like the owners made a lot of money in Bitcoin or something. Cause I see Bitcoin symbols at all the arenas all the time. I was like, what? This doesn't make sense. Why do they have all the Bitcoins? And the one I seen, it was super weird. It was almost like in a marina. The one I seen before this one, it was in a marina. It's very weird. There's all these super expensive cars parked out front, boats. It's like it's a very small arena, like a very small little place. And there's all these boats because it's in a marina, and all these expensive cars. And there were some crazy fights though. There was really probably about maybe 200 people there, but I think it's one of those organizations. They got Bas Rutten on board, so they got money from somewhere. And they're actually putting on some pretty decent cards. There's dudes who are just straight up banging each other. Real shredded dudes who are just going toe to toe. I think there is the Sun Shao stuff where I think you can do takedowns. I think if you're really in trouble. I haven't seen enough of it to really know to fully understand all the rules, but I think that's going to be one of those organizations where I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And most of the cards right now have been free. You can easily find them on the internet, and I've found it on the Fight Network, which we were lucky enough to get. All in all, very packed weekend for us, especially with the wedding, UFC, Hell in a Cell. If you're all the football today, it was one hell of a weekend for sports and for sitting on the couch and drinking beer. That's for damn sure. Anything else you want to bring up, Kelly?
No. I think I'm good.
Yeah, I think we've done damn good. Wow, hour and a half this time.
Just about, yeah.
Yeah, and if you cut out all the ums, you know what I mean? Well, it'll be about an hour and 25 minutes. I think if you have a great show number 2 went a lot more smoothly than I think that show number 1. I think it's, like I was saying before, it's really an organic evolution to this thing. Shows are going to be different. We like to talk about different shit. We're just two normal guys. I hope to have another buddy involved down the road. But as of right now, it's just going to be, you're just going to be listening to my golden voice and talking about sports, M&A, everything in life, especially when it comes to sports. And on that note, on behalf of Kelly, the producer extraordinaire, my name is Steven. This has been the And New Podcast. Have a great night.